Hey everybody, it's Dana. Good evening. It's November 5th. I don't know how we have reached the month of November yet. Blows my mind, but we did. So I'm going to spend a little time tonight talking about some home remedies and some things that you can do using essential oils. We have the option, and we'll talk about it later, to talk about things like um, um, homeopathies and other remedies, but tonight we're talking about essential oils used in a first aid capacity. I will tell you guys that I'm going to make one little modification. It won't change a whole lot. It'll just change where you see things show up and how they interact, just because I'm trying to keep things in their own lane. So you'll see more information coming from my other business that's called the Well-Oiled Canine. But for tonight, let's talk about first aid. I do need to remind you, especially since we're going to get a little more specific tonight about certain oils, that I am not a veterinarian. I do have certifications in veterinary aromatherapy, but I can't practice medicine, nor am I trying to. And so what we're talking about tonight is educational. It is not specific to a particular animal or any of that kind of thing. The knowledge that I'm sharing with you is my own. It is not knowledge from Young Living, and it is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease or any illness. So having said all that, you're encouraged to learn as much as you can, do your own research, and verify things before you start implementing such remedies. Now, got all that out of the way. So, couple of things that I'll just remind everybody about general first aid is this is not intended to replace your veterinarian. This is intended to perhaps buy you some time as you head out to seek veterinary care. I know that a lot of us, especially who have been in training or grooming or the foster world, rescue world for a significant number of years, we often know what it is we're looking at, or we have a really strong suspicion as to what we're looking at, but we cannot validate that without veterinary care. So this is not intended to suggest that you do not consult your veterinarian. Okay, it's not suggested to be that at all. I also encourage all of you to have a good first aid kit. And there used to be, I had a whole list out on my blog, and so I want to make sure that's there. Everybody needs one. You probably need two, one at home, one in the car, one at your vacation place if you have one of those. If you're transporting dogs very often, you need to have one in the car. I also now believe that first aid kit needs to have essential oils in it, and we're going to go through those and why I think you need them. I think everybody who is a pet parent needs to have learned CPR for your dog. There are some great classes that you can take. You also need to learn how to Heimlich your dog. You need some basic bandaging. So a good first aid class is a really great thing for all of us to take, but certainly for you rescue groups who have a lot of dogs sort of rotating through. We never know what we're going to be exposed to in terms of things that they will present us, broken bones, choking, obstruction. Again, not to replace your veterinarian, but maybe to buy yourself some time as you head out to see the vet. Okay, so first aid is very different than our long-term care. So we are talking about those things that we would use quickly and for short-term use. This is not intended to be anything that would be used on a long-term basis. All right, this is something's going on, we need something fast, and we need something quick and effective, and we will not continue this particular remedy, so to speak, for a long period of time. So if you followed me at all, you know that I mention imprinting essential oils with our dogs. That means bringing out an essential oil, opening the bottle, letting that waft through the air a little bit, maybe starting to diffuse it so that they have the first experience of that scent when they're calm and under a good state of mind. We might even then offer, hold out a hand so that they can come sniff it where we've put a drop of that oil in our hand and let them sniff it. If they run for the hills, we're not going to chase them around and say, no, you got to smell this. We need to start to figure out what it is that is sort of setting them back on their heels. But when we do this, we're really talking about imprinting an essential oil. We want them to have a positive association when the oils come out, not these, oh my God, I've smelled, an essential oil and I'm in a traumatic experience. And then they're imprinted that scent with trauma, and they will be forever like, oh my God, bringing back those memories from the limbic system. So imprint the oils, an evening like tonight, you just got a new one, you just got your starter kit, and do one a day, one a week, slowly progress your way to them getting very comfortable and familiar with whatever scents we may need to expose them to. However, having said all that, in a true crisis, I don't care whether they like the smell or not, we're going to do what we need to do. So my instructor, Dr. Nancy Brandt, one of the things that she says is the top 4 oils to have on hand. If you could only have 4, right? If you could only ever have 4 essential oils, she recommends having helichrysum, eucalyptus, lavender, and peppermint. And I'll tell you why for each of those in a minute. Me personally, if I could only have a single oil, if I could only ever have one, it would be frankincense. Frankincense would be my go-to if I was limited to a single one. So when we talk about the 4 oils that Dr. Nancy suggests, helichrysum, eucalyptus, lavender, and peppermint, remember that they spell out help. The first letters of each would spell out help. So helichrysum, it's going to be a pricier essential oil. In a crisis, you won't care, right? It will help with anything to do with bleeding and blood, including the potential for internal bleeding. So this would be one that if, let's say the dog had been struck by a car, for example, and we need to rush to the veterinarian for help, we might be putting helichrysum into the dog's mouth or rubbing it in his gums. Now, remember, a dog in pain could be a dog that's willing to bite, so you have to be super careful about all these things, but it is an oil we want to get into them as quickly as possible. If we have an external injury, then we might just be sort of salt and pepper shaker style to get that oil onto their body to help the tissue do a little bit of repair and regeneration as we're headed to the veterinarian. So I'm going to try to quit repeating that we need to be on the way to the veterinarian. Just know that's what I'm telling you. Okay. So it can help improve the tissue. It can help detoxify things that might be in that injury. And again, anything going on with the blood, helichrysum would be beneficial. Eucalyptus is all about the respiratory system. It can also help our joints and muscles, and it will promote an overall sense of well-being and healing, right? So if we've got a dog that is perhaps got some respiratory congestion going on, having difficulty breathing, might be passing out on us, eucalyptus could be a great beneficial one to get some air moving, get the respiratory system sort of reconnected and re-engaged with us. Lavender needs to be lavandula angustifolia, period, right? Now, I'm going to sidetrack here a second and talk about quality because it 1,000,000% matters. I see clients or people joining my Facebook group who are using products that I personally would not apply to my dog. I wouldn't apply them to me, wouldn't apply them to the dog. Lavender is often an adulterated oil, and you can often find some clues by looking at the bottle of any of these oils. When it says something like for aromatic use only, that means it's got no first aid use, right? Sometimes it will say something like skin irritant. That's another red flag. If you're looking at a line of essential oils and they are all $9.99, no matter what the oil is, that's an indicator that there's potentially a problem. We'll talk later. Jump in my Facebook group. You can learn a lot more about quality, but it really does matter. So when we talk about tissue healing, lavender is one that we might use if, let's say you're cooking, right? You're cooking and you touch your hand to the stove and we have a skin incident at that point. Lavender is an essential oil that you want to put on there directly. Neat. Handle that injury that's going on. However, if you've got some of these oils that say skin irritant or for aromatic purposes only, and you put that on your skin, you're likely to make the problem significantly worse. All right, significantly worse. There is a product called Lavendin. So instead of it being Lavandula angustifolia, it's Lavendin, and it's sold as if it were lavender. That's a problem. You don't want to use that in these situations. To give yourself a little more perspective about this, go do a little research. You will find that France, the government in France has often, I don't know when the last time they did this was, but they have done an audit, if you will, and more lavender essential oil is produced and bottled from that country than is grown in plant material by as much as about 7 times, meaning the plants they grow cannot physically produce as much lavender as is bottled. So you got to ask yourself, where else are they getting it? Where is it coming from? Or what else are they putting in the bottle? So that's a big red flag, okay? So back to our first aid stuff. If you only have lavender, use lavender, right? Set your intention, use lavender. This is how I feel about frankincense. If I only have that, I'm going to use it for everything. It is great to help calm. It is great to help harmonize. It is great for tissue healing of any kind. And it's also good about balancing the energy. Now, remember I said we could imprint something poorly, right? If you bring out the lavender in a traumatic, and it doesn't matter what oil, if you bring out an oil in a traumatic experience and the first time your dog smells that, it's going to be like him smelling the bear in the forest when he's scared, right? The next time he smells it, he's gonna be like, I got to get the heck out of here. And so just know that when we first use something like that in a difficult situation, we may imprint it to the trauma and not to the benefit we would typically see with an oil like that. Peppermint, super helpful. Think of it as your smelling salt. It also has sort of this respiratory opening benefit. It can help us with an overheating situation. So when it's hot, competitive sports, any of those kinds of things, we could actually add a drop to the dog's water bowl. When I'm adding anything to the water bowl, which is rare, but I will do it in these kinds of things, I need to have a secondary bowl that is pure and clean, that has not got any oils in it. The other way that I will use this or recommend its use in an overheating situation is a dog that is truly overheated or a human that is truly overheated, and we are at risk from that overheat, right? Wet a towel that has got a bunch of essential oil in it, or start shaking essential oil from a peppermint right on the dog and put a cool towel on top of them. Water intensifies the effects of essential oils, and it's going to help cool that body, right? It is also beneficial to digestive issues. We need to dilute it when we do that. So if you start dropping peppermint straight in your dog's mouth, he is going to hate it. But if you can get it in with some food or a treat or a capsule or some coconut oil or any of that kind of stuff, then you're going to have a much better benefit, right? So what I often do if I need to get peppermint in for a digestive purpose is a handful of coconut oil, for example, a drop of peppermint, and then I smear it on their gums. Again, that requires you to have a dog that's going to let you in his mouth, but that could be beneficial in that way as well. It's also good for orthopedic injuries and stiff muscles, as well as a dog that is unsettled riding in the car. Not one that's stressed in the car, but one that sort of gets the queasies in the car, right? So peppermint is a great choice for that. So you can see why those four, they kind of cover most of the categories from respiratory to joint health to tissue healing and so on. They could be super beneficial for your first aid. All right. Now, let me see. Let's move on. If I can figure out how to move my own screen. So you guys know I'm a Young Living girl. Will be forever. When we look at this, there are several oils that would be in the starter kit that would be helpful for everyone to have. That same starter kit that we buy for ourselves has benefit for our dog. So if we look at some of the oils that are in there, lemon is there. We can use that in a first aid situation to get our own hands clean, right? It can help prevent insects from being attracted to the injury. It does what we call warm the channels of the body. So you hear me talk often about Chinese medicine and energy flow and all that kind of stuff. It can help warm the systems of the body and the circulations and the meridians and get energy moving again. It can be helpful in a traumatic experience such that it may help overcome the trauma more easily. So we've seen this in a lot of traumatic situations. Remember, I can't use specific disease names or medical terms, but think traumatic issues. The lemon is about sort of brightening the spirit and sort of bringing sunshine back into the moment, right? So it can help the imprint not be quite as severe. We'll put it that way, okay? Frankincense, I've already mentioned a couple of times. If I only had one, it's the one I would have. It helps bring oxygen to the brain. It helps support head injury, head trauma. It can be used pre-surgically. So we're sending our dog in and we want to have a little ceremony and prayer and meditation about hoping that the surgery goes well. Frankincense would be the oil to use for that sort of thing. It is also beneficial to tissue healing. It is very helpful with stress and calming, helpful for despair, if you think about it in those terms. So, and then for you, right, we're sitting out in the lobby of the emergency care going, and we need that prayerful moment or that meditative moment. Frankincense can be the oil that helps us with that. Copaiba is another one. So again, all these in the starter kit. Helpful for inflammation, helpful for muscles, and helpful for calming. It's a very soft, gentle, earthy scent, and it can be very calming. Digest is a digestive blend. Great for that car ride. Again, the upset stomach. I've eaten something I shouldn't. I'm trying to transition from one food to the other and it didn't go so well. That can be helpful for that. RC and Raven, respiratory support. Those of you in foster care, rescue care, shelter work, we know dogs come in with respiratory nonsense all the time. Think Raven, think RC to help the respiratory systems get back into balance. Stress away, very good for calming, very good for sort of easing tension, getting things settled, getting the mind quieted, that sort of thing. Thieves, as the essential oil, is helpful for cleansing. It offers immunity support to the body. Citrus Fresh replaced, there was an oil in the starter kit called Panaway, which was great for those muscles and joints. And we played too hard, we played too rough, we tweaked a joint, we tweaked the hip. It helped with that kind of thing. Citrus Fresh is now in its place. Again, think a lot like lemon, bright, uplifting, cleansing, flushing to the system, sort of helping to purge out stuff that might be there, both physically and emotionally. And then purification is really great for when you want to help with like an insect sting, right? I've used it when I have stepped in fire ants and had them all up and down my leg. And I looking out my front yard because it happened out there one day, and I flew off the shoes and ran down the way, and I told my clients I'll be right back. And I came out just sort of dabbing purification all over my leg, and it stopped the that terrible sensation we have when we've stepped in fire ants. Purification can eliminate impurities, so to speak, and really help us with the air, with the freshness, with the skin, with a lot of things that need some need purifying, for lack of a better word. All right. Okay, moving on. If you guys have questions, let me know, because I'm going kind of fast. So then if I were building my collection further, right? So now I've got you on the starter kit. We added the first 4 oils. So we talked about helichrysum, eucalyptus, lavender, and peppermint were already in there. So you've added 2 oils to the starter kit. Other things that I would add to my first aid collection would be pine, geranium, ravensara, and balsam fir. Pine is great for the lungs and the sinuses. It's great for adrenal depletion, and it's great for lymphatic congestion. So if you think about first aid, what applies in those areas, pine's a great one to bring out. It is also said in Chinese medicine to anchor the Po, P-O, capital P-O, which when translated means a desire to stay. Now, if you put this in terms of emergency first aid and we are rushing to the vet with a dog that may be at risk of not staying with us, you can better believe I'd be dousing him in pine, right? I would be bringing it out and using that. So hopefully somebody else is driving. If not, I'm shaking it on him as we go. But trying to help bring that into the situation because of what it's intended to do and what its purpose on the planet really is. All right. Geranium, super gentle on the skin, helps aid in tissue healing, and helps release negative memories. Geranium is also an essential oil that we wind up putting in some of our annoyance sprays for the summertime, right? Ticks don't like it. But when we use it in this circumstance and we think about releasing negative memories, getting the tissue healing on the body, and being really soothing and really helpful to skin issues of most any kind, then geranium's a great one to have in your collection. Balsam fir is a strong aid to help joint stiffness. So when we talk about inflammation in the body, what is that? That's sort of a call to action for the body to start warming around the joints or the organ or whatever may need some attention, right? So it gets inflamed so that the body starts doing something active in that area. Too much of that and things can go the wrong direction, right? So when we want to offer that some relief so that the body can still heal itself but not be overly inflamed, balsam fir is a great one to use for our joints and our respiratory system. I don't often talk a lot about cats, but I will here. Everybody gets really concerned about can we use essential oils on or with or around the cat? And the short answer is yes. If you are using high quality, very well tested, very well controlled essential oils, right? Young Living, we trust. I know lots of veterinarians, groomers, pet parents, and otherwise who have cats. I don't, but they use essential oils all the time. When we're going to use them with the cat or on the cat, then dilution ratios become an essential piece of the discussion, right? When you're diffusing something in your house, it said, again, high quality essential oils, but make sure that they have the opportunity to leave the room should they choose to do so. But what we often see is the cat laying on top of the diffuser. And so this becomes a matter of we've got the right high quality essential oils and they're choosing to take in the benefit from that. Having said all that, if you want to simplify your first aid for your cat, Melissa might be the go-to essential oil. It has pretty much, again, when I talk about frankincense being my first choice, Melissa would be the go-to for the cat. It has properties that will help in many of these situations, and it's super gentle, and it's one that we know the cat is going to easily tolerate. Okay? Whew, I'm talking fast. So a couple of other things that you might want to have in your kit would be things that are immune boosting. So there's an essential oil called Immune Power, which is protective and positive energy, and it truly does help boost the immune system. Hope and Joy in emergency would be a really beneficial one, maybe for both the dog and for you, right? So if we are, again, in transit in a critical situation, sometimes we feel like there's not much hope. We need to try. We need to be offering as many, opportunities as we can to have a little bit of hope or to bring the idea of the possibility of joy coming back into the life, right? So it's super spiritual. And if we do have that situation where we are grieving or stressed out about the situation, it may not feel like joy is the oil you want in that moment, but it absolutely may help you. Okay. So just be aware of that. Melrose is a fantastical. We don't talk about this one nearly enough. A lot of people will go to tea tree for skin issues. Everybody gets up in arms about tea tree and goes, oh my God, you're going to kill the dog. You're going to kill the cat if you bring out the tea tree. Y'all, that is just not true. Just not true. In the right circumstances, in the right usage, it absolutely has a place in the animal world. But Melrose actually winds up being gentler than tea tree, so more gentle, but still super powerful in its cleansing ability and in its ability to help with skin healing. All right. If you have sort of those weepy skin issues, those oozy skin issues, you all know what I'm talking about, then you might want to choose Melrose as an option. Not that tea tree can't be, but if you're looking to really go gentle, and you are at all concerned about the choice of tea tree, then Melrose might be a consideration. Okay. Other things to keep in mind, and feel free to pop in some questions here if you have them, but other things to keep in mind with your first aid kit. You need a carrier oil in the kit, right? So some of these we might apply neat. If we don't have a carrier, we don't care. We're going to do what we got to do. But you need a carrier oil in your first aid kit. Ideally, you keep a fresh one. Remember that carrier oils are often vegetable oils, olive oil, coconut oil, that kind of thing. Their shelf life will be shorter than an essential oil would be. If you have an essential oil blend that has carriers in it, then it too will have a shorter life than some of the singles would. Things like lemon, tangerine, lime, any of those citrus oils, their shelf life will be shorter than, say, a lavender or a frankincense would be. They are finding, y'all, in like tombs from thousands of years ago, frankincense and other essential oils buried with kings and pharaohs and all sorts of things, right? And the essential oils are still good, right? So a single oil like lavender or frankincense really is not going to expire unless you've kept it in an open bottle in the sun for 14 summers. Do you know what I mean? But if you store them properly, like most of mine are back here on the shelf, if you store them well, then they should last until you use them up. Okay. You also need to keep some small bottles, like a little spray bottle or a little dram bottle. And I should have had them on my desk and I don't. But think little small bottles that you can mix up a concoction in for a spray or to blend a couple of these oils together for a synergy when we need to have, a little concoction made or when we need to have something diluted, right? So keep the little tiny dram bottles and keep some spray bottles on hand. I save my essential oil bottles when they empty and then use them for mixing stuff together. Remember that water will actually intensify the effect of any essential oil. It doesn't mean it's going to add more oomph to it. It may make it feel like you added more oomph to it. So if you've put peppermint on your arm, for example, and then you put water on there, that cooling effect is going to feel much stronger. It's also important to know that if you get essential oil in your eye or in the dog's eye, you cannot flush it with water. Again, that same, we just made it more intense, is going to be overwhelming. If you get essential oils in your eye, flush them with another fatty oil like olive oil or vegetable oil or coconut oil, right? Don't use water. And if you've got something and you've put like clove or cinnamon or one of the hotter oils on the skin, including your dog, and he's like dancing around going, oh my God, what is that sensation? Use vegetable oil, coconut oil, carrier oil kind of thing to soothe that and tone it down a little bit. Okay. We can do that, Wendy. I'll teach you anything you want to know. Never put essential oils down into the ear canal, right? Never put them down into the ear. You can apply them to a cotton ball. You can make these little concoctions and you can work around the ear, but we never want to drop an essential oil itself down into the ear. So I had somebody the other day say to me they bought ear drops for their dogs that were essential oil based. What do we do with typical ear drops? Drop them in the ear. To me, that was a red flag that said that oil probably wasn't as pure as we think it is in terms of its effects and the way in which it should be used properly. So you got to start learning to look for these red flags when you're looking at essential oil products, okay? We mentioned the eyes already. If you are using essential oil and headed to the vet, please, please, please tell them you've used them and where. So for example, if we have open tissue on the body and we've been putting essential oils into that to help with the bleeding or to help with tissue healing, please tell your vet, because essential oils have the potential to be flammable, right? Doesn't mean they're dangerous. It just means they have the potential to be flammable. So if your vet goes in there to try to cauterize something, he may have a surprise little issue with the skin catching fire and making it worse, right? But if we tell them what we've done, they can take the appropriate steps to clean and get everything ready before they start doing that, okay? Essential oils are typically absorbed into the skin super fast, but anytime we talk about an open tissue, we need to let the vet know. So just be aware of that. So other places to think about using your essential oil. So I think everybody starts with this emotional thing. Everybody thinks we can use it for quieting down during a storm, or when the dog's a little bit nervous in his crate, or whatever those things are. And that's absolutely true. I think a lot of times people try something and they don't necessarily take the protocol all the way through what should happen. We do a little bit, we do way too little, and we don't get the effect we're after. Or we use a lesser quality oil and wonder why it didn't work, right? We'll talk about quality in a whole separate conversation, but my point is, most people think we can use essential oils for emotions, and that's true. We can use them for a lot of other things too. So I've mentioned like open tissue, skin scrapes, right? Where you fell down and scratched your leg, or your dog ran into the fence and he's got a little boo-boo there. It can absolutely be used for those things. It can be used for helping any sort of gashes on our way to the vet, right? It can help with the stove type injuries that I talked about, or the skin itself is sort of hot and itchy. It can be used for those things, right? Stings from insects, bloatedness, so the belly gets sort of bloated and it's like, whoa, I shouldn't have eaten that, or gee, you're transitioning to my food and it's about to kill me. This is not, let me rephrase that. We know many of the breeds of dogs have a potential issue of the belly flipping, right? That is a deadly, dangerous situation. It often starts with being a very gassy belly. So we can work on the gas in the belly. We cannot fix the flip. You must be en route to the vet the minute you suspect that that's happening, okay? We've mentioned overheating. We've mentioned open tissue. So think dog has sort of bitten another dog, or maybe you got caught in the crossfire, or little new foster is sort of snappy mouthy resource guarder and he tagged you on the hand. It can be beneficial to those kinds of things. Anytime we think about poisons going into the body, again, on the way to the vet without even thinking about it, don't risk it, but grab your kit with you as you head out the door and start doing things that will help support the liver. If it's appropriate to help the dog vomit up whatever they've taken in, then you need your hydrogen peroxide in your kit. but then we may need to do things that are helping to support the liver. So this is not an essential oil solution. There are essential oil solutions like Ledum, but you all need milk thistle in your first aid kit as well for anything that might have harmed the liver. Just get it in them and head to the vet, right? If your dog has seizures, remember we talked about frankincense being for head trauma, head related topics. That's what I would be doing to sort of get that on the dog. If I don't know what's happening, I'm certainly calling the vet and headed that way. But we don't always know the root of those issues, but frankincense would be the go-to in that category. Trauma, we've talked about broken bones. We've talked about orthopedic use of some essential oils. We've talked about respiratory. We didn't really talk about poopy problems, but think in the same category of digestive issues. If your dog is vomiting. Now, if you know why he may have vomited, then we just soothe and settle, right? If we have no clue, of course we're headed to the vet, but we're also going to be trying to put some digestive support on the belly or on his gums to help him out in those situations. So there really are not many places I won't reach for my essential oil kit first. I'm doing something just about every single day in the essential oil kit with my dogs, and they're perfectly healthy, right? So imagine what I would start doing if I thought there was a problem. Okay. What questions do you guys have? Teresa Hutchinson Grant, could these essential oils be safely used on farm animals that are just 100%, Teresa? In fact, and I'm happy to chat with you about that at some point. We could do a farm animal discussion separately, but when I went to the animal conference, we had detailed breakouts on things like cows and pigs. Horses are a common user of essential oils for many things, right? In the same way that we use them for the dogs. There is certainly much less dilution and a lot more oil used on an animal of that size, but absolutely used in farm life. We even talked about using them for things like chicken and geese and ducks, and so anything furred, feathered, fouled, hooved, pawed, there's an opportunity to use essential oils in their wellness care, 100%. Bonnie's cheering on milk thistle. Yep, I recommend it quite a lot. And it's so inexpensive, y'all, but it has a great benefit to being in your first aid kit. All right, questions? Was this good? Not good? Helpful? Give me some feedback. You know I love it. You know I need it. Anything you want to add or ask me about? Anybody still here? I did that in 45 minutes. Whoop. Yay. This has been great. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate the feedback. And you guys, tell your friends, invite them to our other Facebook group where we can do some Q&A. That group is still a little bit generic, we'll call it, because there are lots of different people, lots of different oil users in there. And I can't get too specific, but I am looking to start maybe what we're calling an educational class, where we won't talk about your dog. We will talk about theory and protocol and that sort of thing in a bit of more detail. So that's coming. Great. I'm glad you guys liked it. If you need me, you know where to find me. If you're not oily yet and you want to be, talk to me and let me help you get started. That I will then be your coach. You have the opportunity to ask me questions one-on-one and to get a lot more personal education. So have a good night, and I'll chat with you guys soon.